Welcome to the podcast. I am Chris Graham. It's Tuesday. We're talking NASCAR news with Rod Mullins, and we're going to start off the track today, and in a courtroom, in a sense, as the two sides in the NASCAR antitrust case are, as far as we know, we're recording at 5:15 on Tuesday afternoon. Into the evening now. They may still be there for all we know, as the two sides are meeting with the judge acting as a mediator. Kind of interesting that the judge presiding over the case is appointed himself to be the mediator in this, and lots to unwrap here, Ron. Looks like that there at least is an effort from the judge and both sides to see if they can find a way to settle without having to go to trial.
Well, it's just one of those things of trying to find some kind of common ground in order for both of these, people. We're talking 2311 and also Front Row and NASCAR to try to find some place to where they can meet and come together and work out their differences. Now, I've only seen a judge really step in as a mediator before in, gosh, back when I was in my 20s and we were having a coal strike here in this part of the area between Pittston and the United Mine Workers. And the judge tried then, and he found out that both of them were like loggerheads. He couldn't get anything out of them and stuff because one wanted to stay exactly where they were on the position. The other was like, they were willing to give position, but not willing to give everything up. So that's kind of the situation that they're in right now. And so, you've got Denny Hamlin on one side of it who says that, no, we're not giving up. We're not going to quit. From what you hear from Michael Jordan, the same thing. We're not going to give up. We're not going to quit. It seems like the only one that's right now that's really working toward a solution in this is NASCAR. And NASCAR seems to be the one that's kind of coming forth and saying, hey, maybe we can work something out. And really, NASCAR played, I think, a game of hardball, really, against Denny Hamlin and also Michael Jordan and the others, because they just refused to change about everything. But now it's almost like, wait a minute. Maybe they do have some points here. Maybe they are showing us a card or two out of their hand and saying, oh, they've got us pinned to the wall. It's time for us to go and say, let's meet you guys about halfway. And that's kind of what I think is going on. That's just my perception of it.
Yeah, that's sort of mine too. The judge in this case is acting as mediator. It is a jury. It would be a jury trial. So
Hmm.
the judge in the North Carolina judge in federal court could certainly overrule a jury. That's an option a judge has if the judge feels the jury's given the wrong verdict. That's rare, but it can happen.
Hmm.
But in this case, yeah, the judge is trying to just play the peacemaker out of this. And it's more informal process. Both sides, without evidentiary rules and things, present their sides. The judge is sort of looking to see, hey, can I, do I see any movement here that,
Hmm.
could possibly lead to a good result? And I mentioned this last week, that it would seem to me that both sides would want a sort of negotiated settlement more than they would like a jury settlement. You can win. I mean, a jury can go all for one or all for the other, and you can get a
Hmm.
total victory. You can also get total defeat, and nobody wants a
Hmm.
total defeat out of this. So if you can come halfway or somewhere towards halfway, I don't know if there is a halfway in this, but I am of the opinion that the team side, Front Row Motorsports and 2311, probably have more likely to get things moving towards their side of the 50 and
Hmm.
in their direction. And NASCAR would probably prefer, hey, let's have control over how this outcome is determined
Right.
as opposed to letting a jury and a judge do so.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree with you on that. The thing that I'm looking at too with this whole thing of, you said jury trial, either one side comes out wins, one side comes out and it loses. I think in this case, in a jury trial, especially with NASCAR and 2311, whatever happens, both of them come out as losers, one way or the other, however you look at it. And when I say both of them come out as losers, 2311, Front Row, they don't get what they wanted. They end up having to sign back in to get charters once again to be a part of NASCAR. But also, NASCAR loses a little bit of credibility out of this thing because, they went as far as taking this thing to court in front of a jury. That was one of those things that I think stands out. But, we've not gotten there yet. So we're in this thing of some kind of, the best I can call it, it's some form of abbreviated mediation is what I can call it. It's a shortened span. We're going to get something out of it, and maybe it's something that we can move forward on, or at least signal that, hey, something might come of this, and there might be something good. And like I said, I still have Phoenix as my deadline, that something happens before or by the time they get to Phoenix, because they'll make it a media circus event if they do, and then they get this thing settled. Where else but to get it settled at Phoenix? And I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist here at all and everything, but Denny Hamlin is locked in to the championship 4 right now out of this whole bunch. Wouldn't it be ironic that Denny Hamlin wins a championship and also wins a major decision against NASCAR on that Sunday in Phoenix, and it just culminates everything with that?
If I had to predict what I would think would happen out of this, I would think that the charter system will survive in some form,
Mm-hmm.
maybe with longer terms than what is it, 6 years that
Yeah,
that they're given
6
now.
years.
I
Mm-hmm.
think longer terms, if not indefinite terms, but I don't know if they'll go indefinite, but definitely longer terms, more security for the charter owners, the team owners, with the caveat that and with some more percentage of NASCAR revenues going
Mm-hmm.
towards the teams, which is what I mean. This is essentially what the Front Row and 2311 speaking. Whether the other team owners are on their side or not officially legally, they really are speaking for everybody there. And what NASCAR gets out of that is okay, yeah, we get to maintain this system, even though it may not be exactly the way we want it,
Right.
but we still get to maintain some control and save face. So I mean, a
Yeah.
little bit of saving face there. And yeah, I'm with you, Rod. To me, it's just something we got Martinsville this weekend, we got Phoenix next weekend, and we're wrapped up for the season. It's between 7 and 10 days before the business week is over next week,
Mm-hmm.
and then we get to focusing on that championship weekend. Yeah, I think we may see something there. I think it will be for the best of everybody involved if we
Right.
see something before then.
Yeah, I agree with that. And another thing I believe that's going to play into this is NASCAR needs to really take a look at this seriously, at this media package that they signed. I don't really think that Amazon right now is probably the one that they need to be pointing fingers at. If anything, it's probably Fox and NBC. That's the two right now that I think they need to be pointing at. And whether or not we see out of this plan a kind of a cut, bait, and run, and just take off and let Fox go their own way, let NBC go their own way, I see Amazon kind of swooping in at that point, and Amazon taking over the schedule. And then, we might see something along the lines of, what Formula One has signed before with like an ESPN or somebody of that nature. It would be a difference because, the first thing that was ever instilled in NASCAR was the ability to be able to watch it at home. And then everybody had local cable television at that time, and ESPN really took off with that. But then after ESPN kind of fumbled it so many times after having it, and then losing some of the good talent that they had along the way of, letting Bob Jenkins go and letting Larry Newber and some of those people go, where did they have to go? I mean, they didn't come back to an NBC. They didn't come back to a Fox. It was an all different ball game. And I think we're going to see an all different ball game, I think, coming up very soon, because they can't be pleased right now with the ratings. They can't be pleased with the coverage. Probably, I'm going out here on a limb when I say this, but NBC should be publicly flogged for what kind of schedule they put together this year, and especially down this stretch. Even though they're going to say they're carrying the most important races of the season. Well, for these playoff guys, every race past, that last part of August, 1st of September, is an important playoff, race. That's what it is. It's an important race, and they deserve to be covered. But neither one of them right now, I don't think the networks and I don't think NASCAR right now are looking at the big picture of how do we go and move around from NFL football and try to put this in a place. They're not looking at that. And that's where we talked about last week, Denny Hamlin saying, hey, let's race on Friday nights. Let's race on some other night other than when they're playing football and see what we can do about ratings. So we'll just have to wait and see.
I'm with you on that too, Rod. I'm thinking of the example of WWE, which is doing a lot of things that NASCAR has been doing for the last few years, and I don't think it works for either one in the sense that WWE now, one of its weekly shows is on Netflix, one is on the CW. I'm trying to think out off the top of my head. One is on NBC Universal, so it's on USA.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just signed a deal with ESPN to have their pay-per-view events on the ESPN app.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a regular person out there just trying to keep up with the weekly shows of WWE, you've got to have like a map on your wall to be able to figure out where all these things are. And NASCAR does that too. I mean, it's not necessarily within a week, but you first part of your season you're on Fox, then you're on Amazon, then you're on TNT, then you're on NBC and whatever channels they stick you on
Right.
whatever week it is. And you just kind of get tired of having to figure out where everything is all the time. And Fox is kind of doing that with baseball right now.
Yeah.
The ALCS was on FS1. Not on the traditional Fox. And
Mm-hmm.
so what the heck are we doing here? We're throwing people all over the place and we're wondering why we're losing ratings. It's because we can't find where you are.
Well, it's true, and all because of streaming. Streaming has changed everything drastically, and cable television. I kind of have predicted this. I think it's very well on its way out, but I think in just several years, I think what we know of cable is not going to exist anymore, and I think we're going to be looking at streaming because that's what the networks and that's what the people want. But they want things on their terms. They want things of being able to watch it when they want to watch it, even though there might be a time, hey, I'd like to watch this race at 12:30 in the afternoon and not have to watch an NFL preview show and then wait for my race to come on at 3 o'clock before the big show comes on at 4:15 between, two NFL giants that are playing in the late game on that particular afternoon. So, NASCAR has got a lot to look at, and I think the drivers and also the teams have a lot to look at in the fact of where they're going to come out with this thing of the media rights and maybe even there may be who knows, there may be some kind of negotiation or something here before they even get halfway through the season to kind of realign this to find out what it's going to do for the betterment of the teams and also for the betterment of the networks too.
Oh yeah, for everybody involved. And
Hmm.
it's the answer always is money, so they'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
that's
It's all
it.
about making more dollars. All right, let's shift to on the track.
Hmm.
And we normally start there, but we had so much off the track to get into this week. All right. So we're down to two races left in the season, one left in this round of 8 to get to 4. And man, the Joe Gibbs Racing Team looking pretty good right now. Chase Briscoe winning at Talladega. So JGR has 2 spots locked up in the championship 4. And we just got one more race to go in Martinsville, down our neck of the woods here in Virginia this weekend. Man, there's it's white knuckle time for everybody out there.
Yeah, it is. And this was such a dramatic finish also Sunday at Talladega that I was just amazed by it. And one of those factors came into being and so forth. Did you have enough gas to be able to make it? And Kyle Larson looked like there for a while he was going to pull off the big win and get a win on the super speedway. And it didn't happen for him. And, after the dust settled, you're right. Chase Briscoe took the checkered flag for Joe Gibbs Racing, and it was a huge career-defining win for Briscoe. He locked himself into his first ever championship 4, which is a big deal for him after joining Joe Gibbs Racing, previously being with Stewart Haas Racing for a time being, and he's joined now Denny Hamlin, like you mentioned, who won last week in Las Vegas. But I think this time around, the key for winning for Joe Gibbs Racing was team unity. And that's the thing that they're trying to stick with right now more than anything. Briscoe was running sixth on the final overtime start, but he got a big, massive push from none other than Ty Gibbs, the very person that some weeks ago everybody was fussing about him being able to go and running interference and so forth. Well, he helped him out. And, he was also looking for his first career win too, but Briscoe later said he wouldn't have won the race without Gibbs' selfless commitment as the Toyota duo freight trained their way past the leading Chevrolets and Fords on the backstretch. And it was a big day for Toyota too.
Yeah, you mentioned the big push. You got him past Todd Gilliland. Now, neither Gilliland nor Gibbs is in the eight-driver playoff field, so they can't make it to the championship four. But it just shows you again how unique NASCAR is in this sense. I mean, we're in playoff season. We're towards the championship. We're getting to the Super Bowl here, and
Yep.
guys who aren't teams who aren't in the mix for being in that Super Bowl can still help determine who's not, who is and who is not. And in this sense, Ty Gilliland, narrowly beat at the checkered flag because of help from another non-playoff driver in Ty Gibbs, and that's team unity important. I mean, it's team unity in the sense here. We were talking just the last couple of weeks about the lack of team unity
Mm-hmm.
from Denny Hamlin and Bubba Wallace. They kept Bubba Wallace out of this race, this round of eight. JGR obviously, playing well together. They're playing well in the sandbox together to help themselves achieve what they've achieved.
And you can't help but be feeling so bad right now for Bubba Wallace, too. He's still smarting after this whole thing. And it's saying, what does it take for him to get a little bit of team effort out of some things like Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe in this case? But, I think the biggest heartbreak for this entire weekend was the Hendrick Motorsports duo. And that was Kyle Larson and William Byron, who they were running first and second on the final restart. And Larson, he runs out of fuel, like I mentioned at the field. They surged past. He finished 26th on the finish, but Byron was spun in the oval, finishing 25th. They missed out on a potential win and also some very crucial points. And Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, they had strong days up front, but Logano was complaining a little bit at the end of the race and so forth about how things were going. The overtime restart, it dropped them back deep in the field. It cost them a lot of valuable stage and finishing points. And you have to throw in here too, Chase Elliott, he saw his day end rather quickly early on in a multi-car crash on lap 53. It forced him into a must-win scenario coming up at Martinsville this weekend. And so as it stands right now, with Briscoe and Hamlin locked in, there's only 2 spots remaining in the championship four at Phoenix, and that's heading to the round of 8 this weekend at Martinsville. Christopher Bell is currently 37 to the positive in points above the cut line, and Kyle Larson is holding on by a plus 36 on the above the cut line. But here's who's below the cut line, and you talk about tight. This is tight. William Byron at minus 36 points. Joey Logano at minus 38 points. Ryan Blaney at minus 47 points. And yes, Chase Elliott at 62 points to the negative. So Chase Elliott has to win this weekend. He can't just rely on running around the Martinsville track and finishing a second or third this time around. He's got to win it, and we'll probably see a whole lot of aggressive driving out of that young man probably on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that next. So we go from Dega with the big track to super speedway. It's very different in Martinsville.
Right.
I've said this a lot this season. I love the scheduling. If you're going to do a playoff schedule like this, we ended with one of the rounds with Bristol, a short track where there's bumping and banging. We have that again this weekend. Should be fun with 2 spots open to see, just how aggressive those other 6 guys are. What do you think?
Well, here's, I guess, my favorites to probably pull this off and try to at least get the final 2 positions into Phoenix. Ryan Blaney, he's, right now he's a threat because, he won Martinsville in the round of 8 2 years ago, or in 2 years in a row, as a matter of fact, has an incredible short track package Penske has put together for him. He needs the win, though, and Martinsville's his best chance for a win. I have to also throw Christopher Bell into that. We could have a three-car JGR finish out of this going into Phoenix. And if Christopher Bell, who also another Martinsville winner, and he holds the slight edge in the points over Larson, he's one of the favorites to still win the championship, and a win here could be a huge statement for him, a huge statement from Toyota, because everybody was wondering, where is Toyota this year? Why aren't they being able to dominate? And then Christopher Bell won, 3 races in a row, and there he looked like, hey, they were unstoppable. And then they went into kind of a lull there for a little bit before they kind of woke back up. So let's just put that in there as a possibility there with Bell making the playoffs. Don't count out Kyle Larson, though, because he's 1 point ahead of the cut line, but his consistency, I think his raw speed, this round has been excellent, minus whoever failed on the figures on putting the gas in the car or making sure that he had enough gas. If that's the case, I know they told him on the radio, they said, we're good to go. We're okay to go. But then when you need that gas right there on that final lap, it just wasn't there. It wasn't in the pickup, and, he ends up finishing 26th. Last but not least, William Byron, despite his Talladega misfortune, he's been hot on some of the short tracks, and he will be highly motivated to try to pull something off. And notice, I did not mention Chase Elliott out of this. I just don't know if Chase Elliott has a chance to be able to pull something like this off, but stranger things have happened. So if I had to make a prediction for the championship 4 in the next 2 weeks, I'd probably have Hamlin and Briscoe, of course, joined by Bell in there, and then a huge clutch win, possibly by Ryan Blaney at Martinsville. And it might be the first time that we've been shut out with Chevrolets in the championship 4. I mean, we're going to have 3 Toyotas if that's the case, and then we'll have 1 Ford, and Chevrolet will be doing a lot of head scratching because they sure won't win the manufacturer's championship out of this one with it going to Phoenix and seeing 3 Toyotas there in the front and then 1 Ford, if that's the case.
Hey, and then there's always the factor of spoilers, and there's lots of spoilers out there, lots of guys who are running really well right now, who can impact things this weekend, next weekend. That's the fun part of NASCAR. And I hope this system stays. It could very well be that this is the last playoff. So, if you like this system, enjoy it the next 2 weeks in case it goes away. But in any case, well, Rod, as always, thank you for your time, your insight. We'll look for any previews coming up in the next few days. Of course, we'll look forward to your coverage this weekend and look forward to talking to you again next week.
Appreciate it, Chris. Thanks.